Hi, everybody. This is Dariel from the Florida Hockey Bros. Wanted to record a quick reaction to some of the trades that have taken place the last couple of days. Some exciting stuff for the Panthers, but also a few other moves and sort of a little bit of intrigue about the teams that haven't made a trade yet and what might happen. So I'm going to get right into it. Kind of starting with the trade from yesterday, the Anthony Mantha trade to the Golden Knights for a second round and pick this year's second rounder and 2026 fourth rounder with a 50% salary retention by the Capitals. This trade confused me a bit. I mean, I know Mantha is a skilled player. He's kind of big, but he doesn't really play a physical game at all. He can give you some goals. He can give you some, I guess top six scoring. But he's been, on and off kind of type of player in terms of performance. The Capitals couldn't really trade him this offseason, even though they really wanted to. Some people have criticized him for not playing hard, for being inconsistent, thinking he could be a healthy scratch at times. Again, there's always upside on these guys, and going to a culture like the Golden Knights might bring out the best in him. But when you look at what they paid, and I'll get into a comparison trade pretty soon with what the Golden Knights give up, I'm not sure that Mantha would have been the guy I would have gone after, even with the 50% retention. But I'm sure the Golden Knights are not done. So this is probably one move I'm on, probably at least one more, if not maybe a couple, to deepen their team. And they're still a scary team once, they get everybody back. So Mark Stone is back and stuff. So anyway, I think they're still a contender. Just kind of not a name that I thought they would go after. I thought that if Mantha went to anybody else, would be sort of like a second add-on. But first guy to move. And then today, the big move for the Florida Panthers, Vladimir Tarasenko, which was the main sort of guy that I would have liked the Panthers to get. I'm glad they got him, especially for the price. I think it was a conditional fourth round pick. For this year, and then a third round pick for next year that we gave up. I read originally that there was 50% retention. I don't see it showing here on this trade tracker that I'm following, but either way, I think is an excellent trade for the Panthers. I mean, that first line with Barkov, Reinhart, and then Tarasenko moves Verhaeghe on to the second line with Bennett and Tkachuk, where I think he belongs and performs better. That's a legit top six. Kind of a nightmare top six, I think, for a lot of teams to play against. And then that keeps Evan Rodriguez on the third line with Luostarinen, and Lundell. And that's a really solid third line that's been coming really strong the last couple of weeks. They've started to score. They're starting to find some chemistry. And that third line with Lusti and Lundell helped shut down a couple of teams last year in the playoffs. So I'm excited for that depth. And also, rumors are that Cito's not done, especially if he was able to get that 50% retention, because then he has cap space to go after either Max Pacioretty, who's the name that's been named. And there's an article saying that Florida is one of his preferred destinations to waive his no trade clause. So adding Pacioretty would be kind of a luxury at this point, because our top nine, I think, is pretty strong. I guess that would move maybe Luostarinen into the fourth line, which is ridiculous if Luostarinen were on the fourth line with Stenlund and Lundberg. But, if you've got the space and you want to go for it, giving up picks, which at this point, the other reason I like this move is not that the picks are not high. I mean, the Panthers don't have that many high picks. We don't have a first rounder this or next year, and I don't think we have a second rounder this year. But we have actually a pretty decent prospect pool right now that we've developed. Maggie Samoskevich, Justin Sordoff in the AHL have had great seasons playing on the first line together. I think they're going to be coming on strong and probably make the team next season on I think might be the last year of the entry-level contracts. But I think they can be legit contributors. They have a lot of skill and they've really developed. They have Josh Davis, who's playing in juniors and is killing it, scoring a bunch of goals. He's coming probably to the AHL. Jack Devine, top 5 in scoring and points and goals in college hockey this year. Kind of a steal 7th round pick. That guy's been elite in college, even better than Mackie Samoskevich was in terms of points this season. He's likely going to be coming to the AHL next year to develop him. There's a bunch of other guys, Mike Benning, Evan Nouse on defense, Grayson Souching, who's been having a solid season in juniors. So there are a lot of guys that in the next 2 to 3 years, the Panthers can develop and bring in, who will be contributors, who can play two ways, who are physical, who got actually a little bit more skill than some of what we have in the middle six. at times. So I think Cito knows he's got this window with the core right now. He'll have to make some moves with some of the UFAs and stuff, but the core, is strong. He'll have some options, and then you have some of these kids coming online the next 2 to 3 years to add and help with the cap. So I think the Panthers can remain pretty competitive and strong over the next 4 to 5 years at least. And so these picks that we don't have, you're not really going to feel that until later on. And there's always a chance that we can trade Ekblad or trade Verhaeghe down the line, or even Bobrovsky in the last couple of years of his deal. You may be able to get a first or second round pick back in a trade. So there are always ways that you can get some of those picks back. And Cito has proven with his staff that they can make those 3rd, 4th, 5th, and even 7th round picks really turn into something really quickly. I mean, it was Josh Davis is a 6th round pick, Devine a 7th round pick. They're looking legit, like really legit. So anyway, love this move for the Panthers. Definitely contenders. Even if there's an injury, you have depth now. Cousins gets moved down to the 4th line, maybe even becomes your 13th forward if you have Pacioretty. So anyway, hell of a steal by Cito. And I know that Tarasenko had a no trade move and clause and wanted to come to Florida as he has a house there, and the Panthers tried to get him in the offseason. We just didn't have enough money. So anyway, great fit. Love the move. I couldn't be more excited. Adam Henrique, Sam Carrick to the Oilers in exchange for a 2024 first-round pick and a 5th-round pick with some salary retention for both players. And that kind of lets me know that if the Oilers are giving away their first-round pick with Henrique, they're not going to go after Gensel. So I'll talk about Gensel later, but this is starting to get interesting with Jake Gensel and where he might end up going, because the Oilers, I think, have really gotten their guy for the top 6. And I think if they make another move, it'll be for a defenseman. I do think that they should make a move for one, maybe veteran, physical defenseman. But don't hate the move. I think Henrique is a very versatile player. I think he adds a little more depth to the Oilers. I think it's a smart move. You have to go for it. If you're the Oilers, give away your first round pick. Don't worry about it. You got to do it. And then Sean Walker going to the Avalanche and a 5th round pick in exchange for Ryan Johansson, who I know has struggled this year with the Avalanche, hasn't really fit, and then a conditional 1st round pick for next year. Don't want to say he's on overpay. I know Sean Walker is a really good player, but he's come on really online this season, and all of a sudden became this guy. I don't think he was that hot before. And all of a sudden becomes like a 1st round pick type player that Philly was asking. And then they get Johansson, which is a little more depth for their center position going forward in the retool at this point. I don't even think it's a rebuild for Philly. So I like the move for Philly. They're getting that 1st round pick they wanted. They're getting a good, solid player, could play middle 6, maybe third on the 3rd line. And then, the Avalanche needed apparently a D. They wanted to get a Sean Walker, I guess, a right-hand shot. So they're getting that for the defense. They needed some mobility, some guy who can move the puck, maybe give them a little bit of depth on defense and on offense from the back. But then the next move, sending Bo Byron to the Sabres in exchange for Casey Middlestat. I mean, Middlestat, I think, is a great player, great addition. Not elite or whatever, at least not in terms of the numbers he's put up so far. But he's a really good ad. I think he has depth. He's better. I think a better ad than Johansson. Definitely an improvement there. So that's a good move. Bo Byram is a very talented defenseman. He actually was a good contributor for them in the Cup run. He's still very young. I know that the main issues are the concerns with injuries, and especially with, I think, a concussion. But if he can stay healthy, I think could be a bit of a steal for the Sabres, maybe with this trade if Middlestat is kind of plateaus and kind of stays out where he's been the last couple of years. But we'll see. Avalanche are going for it. Apparently, they like Walker, they like Middlestat. They've kind of made the team a little bit deeper, I think, with this. Makes sense. We'll see long term if he works out. But I like the trade for the Flyers and I like the trade for the Sabres. Smart trades. And then the last trade that I'm seeing is Wennberg, Alex Wennberg going to the Rangers for a 2024 2nd rounder and a 2025 4th rounder, which is the same as, or very similar to what the Golden Knights gave up for Mantha. I guess the 4th rounder is in 2026 in that trade. I think Wember is just a more well-rounded player. I saw him play with the Panthers. He plays center. He can kill penalties. He can even play on the power play. He's got skill. He's a smart player, can play on the wing if you need him to. It's not going to give you 80 points and 35 goals, but it is going to give you some production. It is going to defend really well-rounded. And for a team like the Rangers that needed, he's kind of I don't know that he's the fastest guy, but he's a good skater. And he gives you that depth at center that I think the Rangers were really looking at. I know he was, they were looking at him, they were looking at Henrique, they were looking at some other guys. So anyway, I think Wennberg is a very smart addition to the Rangers and makes him definitely deeper now and more difficult to play. And didn't give up a ton for him. Also a sign that the Kraken might be selling. So we'll see if the Kraken sell other players as well. Because, the whole thing that they weren't going to sell, that kind of goes out the window. Is Eberle going to be traded? Is any other defenseman? I know that they like the top 4 defensemen. But they got some fourth liners like Yamamoto, Tatar. Might be hard to move, but maybe for a 6th or 7th rounder, somebody who needs a depth forward, maybe a retention, kind of cheap. We'll see what the Kraken do, but definitely saw Wennberg. So I'm sure there's more to come. This is what we have so far. My brother and I will do a video on Friday to react to the whole trade deadline and any moves between now and Friday. Obviously, any Panthers news. The thing that I'm curious about in terms of what's coming is Gensel going to go anywhere now that the Oilers give up their first rounder? Vegas made a trade already. Do they have enough assets left to go after him? Who else? The Vancouver. There's rumors about Lindholm, and then other people saying that that's not true. They're not going to get rid of Lindholm. Who knows? I know the Bruins need a center, or at least wanted another forward, and maybe a defenseman. Is Fran Bertrano, who's a scorer, is out there. Eberle still out there. Not a lot of centermen outside of Scott Laughton, I think, at this point. So Scott Laughton could be a guy the Bruins look at. But yeah, where is Gensel going to go? Who's going to give up the goods to get him? Is it going to be Vancouver? Do Vegas still have enough to get him? It might not be Colorado since they now made a couple of moves. It's definitely not going to be the Oilers probably. So the pool starting to narrow for Dubas. And I think this is the risk in asking for a lot for a player is that teams panic. They don't want to miss out. So they're like, hey, if I don't want to give up 4 different pieces for Jake Gensel and I'm not going to re-sign him, then I'm going to get Henrique and I'm going to get, some of these other guys that can add, Middlestad, who's young, who's younger for sure. And you still adding to your team. So yeah, just curious what happens with Gensel, how much Dubas ultimately gets for him. Starting to get a little bit more compressed. Hanifin, is he going to go to Tampa? What's going to happen there? And then the other thing is the Leafs, they were looking for a defenseman. Supposedly they wanted a forward depth. That's becoming less and less likely unless they're willing to go for a Yamamoto or a Tatar. Hope that gives them some scoring, but they need a little bit of two-way play as well with the forwards. So I don't know if they're going to make any moves there and just stick with what they have and then prioritize another right-hand defenseman, Matt Dumba, who's, a skilled player, but he does cough it up a lot, turns it over, can be a liability at times. He does have skill. He does have a bit of a physical style. So that can fit them for sure. But is he just going to be another guy that will give you a little bit of good play, but then turn it over in the playoffs? We'll know. There's also rumors about Edmondson that they're looking bad at Joel Edmondson. Again, not a lot of names left in terms of what the Leafs can add, but I'm sure that they're going to add at least one more name. And if they don't want to give up their first round pick and they don't want to give up any other top 2 prospects, because they don't have a ton after that, they might just have to go with another, sort of cheaper rental and hope that that's enough with what they have. But again, a lot of pressure in Toronto to make a move for Tree Lehman. So we'll see what happens there. And yeah, just curious to see if Vancouver makes another move, where Gensel goes, and with some of the names that are left. There's not going to be as many buyers. There's going to be fewer and fewer buyers left. Carolina's still one of them. We'll see what happens there. But anyway, super happy the Panthers got Tarasenko. And if they want to go after one more guy, could be Pacioretty. Maybe that's overkill. Maybe add another depth defenseman. I like Aaron Johnson, Buffalo. I know that he struggled this year. He's about to retire, but he's a big guy. Right hand, can block shots, can hit. It's a champ. Could be an easy add as a 7th guy. Move Mahura as your earth guy, or maybe trade him for now. Anyway, I wouldn't hate if we added a vet 7th defenseman instead of Mahura for the run, But anyway, we'll see what the Panthers do. That is all for now. Fun stuff, and we'll come at you guys again in a couple of days, unless something really, really insane happens. We might record another one like this tomorrow. All right, have a good one, and yes, please subscribe. Say, like, leave your comments, any reactions to the trades, any team you're a fan of. Tell us what you're hoping for, or if they've made a trade, whether or not you like it. Keep it going. Any engagement really helps, and we'll keep coming with these videos. Just exciting stuff. All right, guys.